this is Jill from Baby Daisy Crafting. Thank you for joining me today. This is our project for today. I took part in a blog hop, the Inspire Ink blog hop at the weekend, and it was a colour challenge, and the challenge was to use Bumblebee, Soft Succulent and Misty Moonlight. And I made this card. This is a stamp from the hand penned stamp set. I used this stamp, stamped it in Memento ink, and then watercoloured it with one of our water painters and some ink from the ink pads, and I'm going to show you how I did that in a sec. You need to be a bit careful when you use Memento ink because it can run with watercolours, but as you can see it didn't on this one, and I'm using paler colours today, so I'm hoping that it won't run. So let's see what happens. So let's do that bit first actually. So I'm going to take a piece of Whisper White cardstock, Whisper White, basic white. How long is it since we've had Whisper White? And this, yeah, that stamp set, that stamp from the hand penned petals set, and I'm going to pop it onto a D block, which should go on. I think I had it on a D block before. There we go. I think that's okay. Just overhangs a little bit, but that should be okay. And then ink it up really well with a Memento ink pad. And then stamp. Oops. Like that. And I'm then going to take, I've got two stamp pads here. Like I said, on this one I used Misty Moonlight and Soft Succulent, and they're much stronger colours. Today I'm going to do it in paler colours. I'm going to use Pale Papaya and soft sea foam. So I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a go. So I'm going to take my Pale Papaya pad, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use these blocks as palettes. So I'm going to stamp them, press them into the stamp pad, and then that's going to be the ink that I use. And I'm going to use the brush with the smallest nib here. These have got a water reservoir in them, and then I think it's silicone, I don't know, but this is a non-staining tip, so you can just clean it off after you've finished. So I'm going to just dip my brush in there. You can squeeze it to get a little bit of water going down it. And then bring it into where you want to colour and just colour. Now I'm doing it quite light to start with. I've watered it down quite a lot, and then I can come in darker afterwards. I'm staying away from the Memento ink as much as I can. I'm going right up to the edges, but I'm not going to smudge right over it because that might encourage it to blend. If you want to be sure that it's not going to run or bleed, you can use stays on. I'm personally not a great lover of stays on. I don't like the fact that it can stain your stamps and that you need to use a special cleaner for it. So I don't tend to use it very much. But of course, if you'd like to use that, that's fine. It's a little bit paler here, so add a little bit more ink. Get that a little bit darker. And what I'm going to do after I've done this, I'm going to come back in with it a bit more intense and do a little bit of shading and make it a bit more intense. So that's that one. I love this way of watercolouring. It's really easy, and it means everything will coordinate because you're still using the same ink as you would use. It will all coordinate really nicely. There. So we've coloured the two flowers. So then you can just, if I could find a tissue, give me a sec. Clean off your brush, dry off your brush a little bit. I'm going to dip it in my ink pad again. Refill the ink pad on my palette, the ink on my palette, and then I'm going to do a little bit of shading. So you can see here, I did the base of the petals. I just coloured them a little bit darker So I'm not going to press for any more water here. I'm not going to water it down anymore. Try and use this colour quite intensely. There we go. And this is a really lovely therapeutic thing to be doing. This is just my sort of crafting, really. I love colouring, doing things like this. So soothing. You can just get lost in it, especially if you had a lot of these to make. There we go. And then just a bit round, just did a bit of darker, so I'm just going to add a bit more ink on there. And then of course you can just clean your blocks afterwards. It's all fine. There we go. There, beautiful. Right, I'm going to clean off my brush and I'll show you how easy it is. So you can just squeeze some more water out. So you just squeeze the barrel, squeeze some more water out, and that will clean off the tip. And you'll actually get, just until you get the water running clear, that's perfectly clean now. And I can use the same tissue just to clean my block. I will come back in and just run that under a tap later on, just to make sure all the ink has gone from it. I'm then going to use soft sea foam and do exactly the same thing. I'm going to come in light to start with. So I'm going to water it down a little bit, press to release a bit of water, and then I'm going to come in a bit darker afterwards. There we go. This is a nice colour combination, soft sea foam and pale papaya, I find. It's one I go back to time after time. The colours on the card I made at the weekend, not really my choice of colour, although I was quite pleased how that card turned out. And I don't think I ever would have coloured this flower with Misty Moonlight unless that had been one of our colours. I think it does remind me a little bit of a cornflower, this flower though, so I might have a go at doing it in a more royal blue, so Pacific Point, something like that, I think might be more appropriate. So there we go. You can't really go wrong doing this. Just there, so pretty, isn't that pretty? Right, okay, and now I'm going to just press that into my stamp pad again, ink that up with a bit more ink, and then do some shaded areas again. If you look on here, you can see where I've just shaded some of the leaves. So just going to dry my nib off a bit. There we go. Just get rid of some of the excess water so that this will be a bit more concentrated. So isn't that perfect? This is a really nice image to colour as well. I've coloured it by using the infill stamps. I've coloured it by using watercolour pencils. I've coloured it with blends. I've used all sorts. Right, and that's all of that. And I'm just going to do a little blue centre, just because I'm going to use Balmy Blue as my base for this card. I'm just going to grab my Balmy Blue stamp pad. Here it is. And I'm just going to do a little centre of that lower flower with Balmy Blue, just so that it links in with the background. I'm not going to put this on a block. I only need a tiny bit. So just to link it in. Don't know whether flowers ever have a blue middle, but mine has today. Right, and so I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way and then bring in my, let's put that back, check that that's in the right place when we come back. Bring in my mini cutter with the plates, and then I need the die that cuts this flower out from my die set, which is this one, and a little bit of washi tape to hold it in place, just to stop it moving as it goes through. Having second thoughts about that blue centre for that flower, but it's a bit late now, so I'm going to leave it. Hopefully it will look better once it's tied in with the blue and the background of the card. Right, there we go. Now I'm going to have to trim this down a little bit. That's because it won't go through the mini cutter as a whole sheet. And whiz it through. And while I've got my cutter out, I'm going to do some other cutting that I need. So you will see I used the layering circles to do a scalloped circle here, a plain circle, and then a white circle. So I'm just going to do all of those while I've got my cutter out as well. So white circle is going to be this one. Let me tell you the size, just in case you're interested in the sizes. This is the layering circle that measures about 6 centimetres. So that one just whizzes through. Didn't need to use washi tape because it didn't matter if that moved a little bit, as long as it didn't move off the card. So we've got that bit and that bit. And then my daughter bought me a really good present for my birthday, actually. I don't know if I've shown you before. It's this magnetic dish so that when I'm working with dies, I can just put them in and they just stay put, and I don't lose my dies nearly as much as I did. So I just make sure I plonk them in the dish and then I can put them away when I finish crafting. This is the biggest scallop circle and I'm going to use Balmy Blue. I think this is the biggest scallop circle in the set of layering circles. But I will just measure it so that you've got the measurements. It is the scallop circle that measures about 7.5. And then lastly, I've got a piece of soft sea foam, and this circle measures 6.7 centimetres roughly. Those are rough measurements. I'm not doing it terribly accurate. It'll give you an idea about which ones you need to use. And there we go. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put my die cutter away, bring my grid sheet back. Just make sure my grid sheet is in the right place. Is that all right? Ish, a bit high up that end. Bring it down a little bit. Probably not straight, but never mind. Sure you can cope. Right, so we're going to layer the soft succulent onto the Balmy Blue, and then the white onto there, and then we're going to layer this in a minute onto there. Oh, that looks okay. Actually, that does that. As soon as you do that, that blue ties in perfectly. Hoped it would, and it does. Right, okay, so we're going to make our card blank now. So I've got a piece of our thick Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to cut it at 15. Really doesn't want to stay put, this grid paper today. Cut it at 15. Oops, oops, that's my scoring blade just came out of the groove. Put that back in. Quite easy to get back in. You've got a little gap down at the bottom that they slot into. Don't need that piece. Need to score this at 10.5. That's our card blank. And then I've got a piece of the Euro Peach. Is it Euro Peach or Sweet as a Peach? Euro Peach. And this has got that pattern on there, but I quite like this Balmy Blue pattern on here, so I thought I'd use that today. I do love a stripe. I've cut it at 10 centimetres. I'm just going to cut it down to 14, just less than 14.5, about 14.4. And I'm going to hope that that's the right size. If not, I can come back in and trim that a little bit more. So let's burnish our card blank. And then now that's not quite met there, so I'm just going to take my little chopper. I'm a bit of a perfectionist about these, and just chop off those edges where they don't quite meet. And tiny bit, but it just means that this is really neat at the edge here. I could get away without doing that, especially on camera, because I doubt if you could see it, but my OCD won't let me. So that's going to go like that. Now I'm going to just trim a little bit off the side here. It's a little bit wider than I want it. So I'm just going to bring the trim back in. Could do it on my little cutter, although I like to show you using the tools that you can actually get your hands on. Of course, we don't sell that little cutter anymore. I wish Stampin' Up would bring it back. I have so many customers asking about it. Really wish they'd bring it back. The only thing I don't like about the trimmer is that it gives you that lip on the edge of your cardstock. So I'm just going to push those out. Yeah, that's all right. I might just go around this edge. That's obviously the cut edge that I cut. There we go. Right, so this is going to go onto here. Perfect. So a little bit of Tombow. So I'm not going too close to the edge. This is coming out quite quickly today, the Tombow. So what I do is I squeeze it on, and then I'm going to spread it out right to the edges with a cocktail stick or toothpick, just so that I get a really fine line of glue really close to the edges, so the edges aren't going to come up. There we go. There we go. And then we're going to layer these. So Tombow again. Layer my soft succulent circle on top of my balmy blue. It's not, I quite like balmy blue. It's not a colour I use very often, but I was just looking for a fairly neutral background paper, patterned paper, and this balmy blue design sprung to mind. So we put that, make sure it is centred. The Tombow will give you a little bit of wiggle room, and then this is going to go on there, and again you need to try and centre it. It's not as easy as it sounds when you've got circles. You can get quite easy to get them going to one side or the other. There we go. So, well, we haven't had this, I'm taping this on Saturday. We haven't had the thunderstorms that we were predicted. It was forecast to be torrential rain and thunderstorms today, and they haven't happened. We've had a tiny bit, a little tiny rain shower a bit earlier, but since then nothing. And I'm so annoyed because I had arranged to go over and see my daughter, and we were going to go for a picnic in the park, and we abandoned it because it was going to be raining, and I'm not, with so much of the virus circulating, I'm not happy to go in a pub or anything at the minute. So I said we'd do it another day, and I didn't go. And then it's been fine all day. We could have done it, so I'm quite cross really. Right, there we go. Right, this is going to go on dimensionals. Just going to poke out that little bit that hasn't come out of the die cut. There we go. This is, but before I put it on dimensionals, I'm going to take a little bit of pale papaya ribbon, and it's going to go around here. So I'm just going to tie it around this die cut. I'm going to trim it off, leave myself enough to tie a bow. Don't use an awful lot of ribbon on my cards, but when it's needed, I do like to add a little bit of coordinating ribbon. And what I do is, with my ribbons that I don't use while they're current in the catalogue, I do keep some and I do use them even though they're not current, if they're particular colours. But I also use them when I wrap up birthday gifts and things. Quite like, I try and buy fairly neutral papers to wrap presents and then just use beautiful ribbons around them. There we go. So I'm going to pull that in a bit, so the loops are a bit smaller, and then just need to just pull that and tighten that again. And that one's a bit longer, so take that out. There we go. Just fiddle around with it. It's not the best bow I've ever made, but I think it will do. So just trim off the ends. It's a nice ribbon to tie a bow with this actually, because it's quite thin and not too bulky. Right, there we are. So this is going to go on dimensionals. Let me find my dimensionals. Few dimensionals on here, make sure it stays, doesn't get squished in the post or anything. Might as well use all of this sheet up, I think. There we go, used it all up. So it's probably too many. You don't need to use that many, to be honest, but I quite like to make sure that it's not, if it goes through a roller in the post, that it's not going to get squished. Saw someone on video the other day doing this with their nails. I wish I could do it with my nails, but my tweezers work well for me. There we go. And that is just going to lay it onto our circle. And like I said, I quite like that blue centre of that flower. I think that just brings all the colours together actually now. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of pale papaya card, and actually I used, on this one, that was the Hello from Biggest Wish. Today I'm going to use the Happy Birthday from Sweet Ice Cream. That's what I'm doing. Oh no, it stays on. Don't want to use that one by mistake. Versamark. I might just use my embossing buddy on here. I can find it. Just make sure we don't get any strays. I nearly did my famous trick of leaving the fans on when I was embossing last night, but I did remember just at the last minute to turn them off. A fan and embossing powder is not a good combination, as I found out last year when I did that. Right, where's my embossing powder? Here it is. Might be why I've not got very much embossing powder left in here actually, because most of it made my craft room look like it was in a snowstorm. There, that doesn't show up very well at the minute, but I'm hoping it will show up a bit better once I've heated it. So I'm just warming up my heat gun here. And I've been dying to use this technique with the sentiment for ages. I've seen a lot of people doing it. They use a light, well, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't really matter what colour it is, but a lot of people are using a dark background with a light embossing, so black with silver or dark blue with white or whatever. It's burning my fingers. And then fussy cutting around it. And I've seen people doing it, but I haven't ever done it myself until I did this one. And I quite like that. So I thought I'd do it again with Happy Birthday. So quite easy to do. So just go around the edge of your sentiment, just following the lines. I'm not going to do every little detail, so I'm not going to go in and out and in and out. I'm just going to do a vague outline. Keeping it quite curly though, rather than any hard corners. It's quite a nice impression, this, when you do this. You used to have some dies that had a shadow behind them that would cut out the word and then cut out the shadow, which were quite nice. I quite liked them. It was a couple of Christmases ago now. Might even have been only last year. Right, let's cut that off and then just go around here. And then this is just going to stick down on the front of our card and we will be done. There we go. There. Right, what do you think? Excellent. And then that is just going to go there, like that. So let's just bring a bit of Tombow in. And a cocktail stick to smooth that all out because I want this to lie really flat. It's just a little bit curly at the minute from the embossing powder. There we go. Put that on there. So it's a very, don't know what this reminds me of, sort of seasidey colours really. I don't know whether it's just a stripy paper is reminding me of beach huts. There we go. Much more my colours, this one though, I have to say. There we go. So there's the other one. There are both our cards. I wonder if you have a favourite. Like I said, I quite like this one once I'd done it, but this is much more my style. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed watching my video today, how I made my card. I hope you might give it a go. You might have some dies and stamps yourself that you could use instead of these if you haven't got the hand pen petal set. All the links to everything I've used will be below, so just have a look there and see what I've used. And that's it from me today. Hope you enjoy that, and I'll be back very soon with another project. Thanks for watching today. Bye.